This series, Landscape Artist of the Year, welcomed 40 artists from Britain and Ireland to compete in heats up and down the country.
Over one spectacular summer, we put their skills to the test.
It's constantly backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards.
Challenging them to paint some magnificent and daunting vistas.
It's bloody green, but, you know, England is bloody green.
From bustling seaside harbours and classical bucolic landscapes.
My worst nightmare.
Oh, good! I'm thrilled for you.
To feats of design and engineering.
I haven't tried painting bubble wrap, but I imagine it's quite similar.
Awaiting the winner was a prestigious prize, a £10,000 commission from the Manchester Art Gallery to create a piece that celebrates both the natural beauty of England's northwest and the legacy of its industrial past.
But as always, the artists had to beat the clock.
I would obviously like another 4 days. I've got an awful lot to do.
Hold their nerve.
It's the nightmare bit. Ink everywhere.
I just hope I don't make a complete mess, but I'm going to enjoy it, whatever happens. International humiliation, bring it on.
And impress our three formidable judges. Award-winning artist Taishan Scherenberg, art historian Kate Bryan, and independent curator Kathleen Soriano.
I normally at this point say, it's looking great, you've made a great start. It actually looks a bit of a mess.
It's a bit of a mess.
Also under the watchful eye of our judges, at every heat were an army of intrepid wildcard artists, vying for the chance of just one place in the pods at the semi-final.
The stuff I do, I call it vibrant realism with an edge.
But you've got your own art movement.
Over the next hour, we're going to revisit some of the highlights. So hold on to your easels and prepare to enjoy the best bits of Landscape Artist of the Year.
Everything's falling down the hill.
Yeah.
Well, I've felt like that sometimes, I must say.
Over 2,000 artists applied to this year's competition, but just 40 were invited to take part, gaining their place in a pod through their submission artworks, which as always displayed a glorious range of techniques, styles and subjects.
We have a wall that, like yourselves, is bursting with interest and vitality. We start with someone who's clearly interested in skies.
I'm completely taken with it. I love the brush strokes and the trees. They're sort of drippy, and then you get the same treatment of the water, and there's a really nice touch of blue that sort of sings. It's well put together.
I think it's just a very beautiful, evocative painting, really.
Now, this looks wonderfully complicated.
I just love the way that the artist has taken nature and really, you know, turned the dial up to 11 and given us this sort of vivacious palette. It's really fun.
I think it's Mother Earth, and we're in the uterus, and we're going to be born down a birth canal of wood tunnel, isn't it? That's what it looks like.
You're the least qualified to know that.
This next one's given me vertigo.
The composition is fantastic, but it's an exercise in stylization. None of nature is rendered in a realistic form.
I just love that sweep of that wave just about to crash. It's very graphic, and it tells us exactly what's happening.
This number 4 here is fantastical.
Yeah, it's like a musical taking place at an industrial plant. We've never had anything quite like this.
No, they're supposed to be Elvis lookalikes.
Wow, OK, so it got even stranger very quickly.
But don't you think it's made all the more weird because of this totally believable character on the right-hand side in the yellow jacket?
Next up, Italian pants.
Pants or no pants, I want to be there. I'm usually faintly allergic to anything with a kind of touristy twang, but you're right in there. Those shirts about to hit you in the face.
What I find extraordinary is the sense of light coming through the clothes. I don't know how they've done it.
Right, a good honest bit of painting.
And perfect for today. I mean, the cutting down and the editing, leading the eye through the landscape is just very beautifully done.
You know, it is classic ugly beauty, and the way they've sort of cropped it is really clever.
Now, anyone who lives in this country will have driven past bus stops like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's really glorious in its celebration of the mundane and the way that it's kind of scrubby little part of England and a scrubby little painting. It's so charming.
It really is a nowheresville, but done in a very beautiful, loosely painted way.
I absolutely adore this painting because you've got a quintessential English landscape that could have been painted by Constable. And then this artist has put like this enormous block right in the middle of all this beauty.
It almost looks unreal. And I think it really kind of conveys that otherworldly quality.
And here we couldn't have a bigger contrast.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastical, it's whimsical. It feels like a sort of a print that could have emerged from the 16th century.
I'm always surprised with printmakers how they conjure up space with just black and white, and it has got that sort of mystical, medieval feel to it.
Now, this painting at the far end, part of a coast, but an extraordinary range of colours.
It's straight out of German expressionism. You know, expect to see a screaming man there.
That texture, particularly at the bottom, feels as if the artist is scratching into this painting as well as using the brush.
It's difficult when a wall is this strong in the morning. Your hopes are set very high.
Once they'd gathered their kit, the artists were given the usual 4-hour time limit.
Artists, I hope you have your brushes, paints and pencils poised because your challenge is about to begin.
As usual, you have 4 hours to complete your individual masterpieces, and your time starts now.
This year, we gave our artists some truly monumental views, inspiring some big compositional decisions.
So I can see, Lincoln, that we're thinking diptych today.
Possibly diptych or triptych. I plonk that there. And even possibly, I've got another board just in case for a quadriptych.
Oh, my goodness. I don't think we've ever had one of those before.
No.
And why in sections? I mean, your submission was just a solid single piece.
Because it's quite a long, sort of narrow vista. And I like working on this size canvas or board.
OK.
But I'm trying to still work out the composition. I'm sort of playing around at the moment.
OK, playing around. You know, playing around is fine for a little while, but then you really are going to have to make some decisions, get thinking.
There's some really beautiful trees out here, really impressive. So I'm just going to really try and get the height in and think about all of that.
Desmond, what are you going to do? Are you going to paint what you see, or are you going to give it a twist?
It'll be naturalistic, but I will be using brushes to make marks that suggest stuff. I'm judging it more like physics, you know? I mean, it has to be cooler in the distance. It's a little bit hazy today. So it's those decisions I'm making, you know, when I'm going to be mixing colour, and not really emotional decisions, if you know what I mean.
That's interesting. So you see painting as a logical, scientific kind of thing?
Definitely, just put the colour in the right place.
You're not vomiting up your sensibility or your soul.
Well, I'm not willingly. But...
Well, I mean, if you do, let us know so we can get a camera on.
Fair enough.
I look for the structure in the view, so I'm really looking for shapes and bold features that I can tease out. I've been concentrating on the lines of the hedges, the line of the hillside, and part of the pod as well, which makes an angle in the opposite direction. It's like scaffolding to hang the paint on.
I
I was very distressed and worried that I couldn't find a subject that really took me. And then this wonderful man here turned up with his whelk industry. You see, I like real life, and this is real life.
This series, some of our competitors took the opportunity to take a bit of artistic license with their colour palette.
The hardest point of doing a landscape is being too chained to the literal. And so I'm looking for colour in this, and it ain't going to be a green painting.
Can I start by saying those are the oddest colours to be starting with? There's no red in the landscape.
Well, I would say there is some red.
Oh, okay.
And it is actually also more to do with the texture of the paint I'm using as well. This is just a household emulsion that I've mixed with pigment. When I start to build up with some oil, you start to get a variation in the texture. I'm going to start using this canvas also, working on the two at the same time, just to let that dry. And it also allows just a nice thick build-up of the paint.
Playing with it and fighting against it is an important part of picture making.
Yes.
And it's just nice to see it in action.
Yes.
I'll let you get on with it, Tom.
Yes, thank you.
Now, James, I've never seen this before. You've started by spraying colour as a frame.
Yes.
But they're not the colours that we'd see out there.
No. I just think these colours will add a bit of vibrancy to it.
They'll give it energy, won't they?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Joining our pod artists at every location were our wildcards. And as usual, they came well prepared for the day.
This is my hands-free umbrella. My husband calls it my bondage gear because, ta-da!
I don't really need this much stuff, but it's comfort.
I have a raincoat, a sun hat, an umbrella, and another umbrella.
I don't normally carry a suitcase when I go sketching. I just made sure that I had everything I needed for today.
I've got pork pie, stopped and got some clotted cream fudge and some cheese, vintage cheese. So if it all goes wrong, I can just sit here, enjoy the sun and get fat.
Paul, did you have to get planning permission to build all this? What's going on?
I built a little contraption to create a cover to hopefully stop the rain coming in.
And this is all because you like to work on a canvas bigger than my house?
Yes.
You've got an unusual tent.
I have. This is a toilet tent.
It's a toilet tent.
Or a shower tent, or a...
Have you brought a shower?
No.
Or a toilet?
Well, I'm sat on a bucket, but
Oh,
I
you-
don't intend to use it.
This series of Landscape Artist of the Year saw 40 artists compete to capture a wide variety of views in their own unique style, using an equally wide variety of approaches.
Stephanie, now I know from your submission, the beautiful surfaces you get, they come about from putting stuff on and taking it off. Is this how you work?
I kind of layer it up. Sometimes I'll then get a squeegee and just smear, like removing the paint, almost destroying the image, and then I'll work over it again.
When you're putting paint on and then taking it off again, you're mixing it in that sort of destruction of it.
Yeah.
So is a lot of your painting happy accident?
I like them little elements of happy accident, yeah. The idea of being out of control and destroying and creating something at the same time.
Do you then become realistic to tie it down, or is it all accident?
No, I like to tie it in with like colour and then some detail.
So those bright colours in the green, they're sort of kicking against the green.
Yeah, that's what I want, yeah, because
Okay.
of all the green, you need something to break it up, I think.
It's looking really fun and exciting. I'll let you get on with it.
Thank you.
KV, tell me about your process. This looks very exciting. Have you been rolling paint on your work?
I have. So part of my process is abstract mark making. And I've just used this toilet roll with copper and brown paint to make these marks, just to give it a bit of drama on the scene.
Denise, you found a very particular slice through. How did you find that?
It just pleased my eye. And the terracotta roof in the centre there is beautiful. The way that I generally work is start at the furthest point and work forward. But I sometimes get a little bit hung up on the detail in the background. The foreground, it's the last part that I will do, and whether I can get the detail that I'd like to achieve once I get there.
You've almost got the spines of the pod structure that's a bit like the trees. I'm not giving you any ideas, but, you know.
This year, our artists proved that you don't always need paint to create a beautiful landscape. There were some unusual media being employed and some equally unusual reasons for using them.
I paint with collage, is how I describe myself. My landscapes are based on my relationship with Women's Weekly magazine. My grandmother, she knitted all the clothes from there, made the cakes. It's taken 60 years before I suddenly discovered that I could chart my social history just through this one magazine.
Elizabeth, why are you using these particular magazines to make your collages?
Originally, it was the quality. It was the cheapness of the paper, which tore beautifully, and the poor quality inks. But while I'm thinking about doing my landscape, I'm not actually thinking in terms of sky, trees, flowers. I'm feeling an emotional connection all the time.
And how do you feel about the view that you've been presented with?
I don't see the landscape. I straight away saw a row of runner beans. And in this bundle here, I have all sorts of exciting things like spring onions and celery, watercress.
And how are you going to deal with all these amazing daisies? I mean, this is like a cacophony, a little sea at the beginning
here. To me, it says flowery summer dress, it says bedspread, it says curtains.
I love the way that you see the world.
For the brown paper technique that I do, I use a lot of different drawing material and a little bit of painting material. Today, I might be working a little bit more with the pastels, so I'll be mixing on the paper itself. So that's a little bit trickier.
Rebecca, talk to me about brown paper.
I like it as a medium tone, and I also like the way the charcoal reacts to the paper.
But it looks to me like you've just ripped it off a paper bag.
I have.
You have?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you go and just buy a roll of brown
It
paper?
doesn't react the same way. I haven't been able to find a professionally made piece of paper that reacts the same way with the charcoal and the paint.
You're now a connoisseur of brown paper bags.
Yes.
Well, I come here as a total innocent. I don't know what dry point etching is.
Well, dry point is etching without any chemistry. It's just literally a point scratching into a surface. That's a pen vise with a needle inserted. And the beauty of this is you can get very incisive, fine lines.
So you've done the sketch underneath, so you know where it is.
Yeah.
You're using these brutal instruments to cut the pattern of the picture.
Yes, it's quite a sketchy, impressionistic sort of view, but it will get tighter as I move on. You can actually rub this off with spirit.
That will come off?
It'll come off, and then I'll have a clean plate, which I can then ink with various tools.
I'm not surprised you've done it all your life. It seems very gratifying.
Thank you. Yeah, it is.
What strange alchemy is going on here, Justine?
So that would be like a painter putting the ground on a canvas, like the background. And these threads are my equivalent of starting to draw into the fabric.
Do you just buy ties in a job lot?
I started off like that, but now I'm known as the lady that paints with ties. So I can open my front door and in the porch there'll just be a bag of ties that somebody's left for me.
Wow.
I've always worked with textiles. It's kind of escalated. When I'm driving down the road, I'll see a landscape in ties.
In ties?
In ties.
And when you see a tie on a person, do you see a landscape?
Yes. It's quite tempting. Just snip that tie.
And as always, the wild cards showed us some very wild artistic techniques.
I go around beforehand and find things on the seashore that connects me with where I am. So I've got some funny seaweed here. I've got an oyster shell that I've cable tied to a bit of driftwood, and I'm going to make some fluid ink and pour that onto the canvas.
This is a gorgeous wee thing. Tell me how you've made it.
So I've started off with watercolour on the fabric, and then I've started to embroider over the top of it.
So it's your normal process, painting and thread?
No, not at all. This is something I've tried to adapt to fit into the time limit.
Excellent.
What's this surface?
This is modelling paste, because I love impasto
Will it be
texture.
bumpy?
Very bumpy. And then I'm going to try and make it touch dry with my heat gun, and then I'll paint on top.
Good luck.
I do use angle grinders.
Right. Why?
Because as a creative medium, they're creating something which is different and new.
Cutting-edge technology.
This series of Landscape Artist of the Year, we were lucky enough to experience some very sunny weather. And while some artists welcomed the appearance of the sun,
the light is great today. There'll be a lot of contrast in the light and dark, which will be really interesting to play with.
Trying to capture the perspective and depth of the scene and the joy and the sun and the life of the day.
for others it was just too temperamental.
The sun is out now, and the water is giving me the most trouble. Reflections and the light on it.
If you could stop the sun moving,
Okay.
that would help.
I'll have to talk to Ty. He's in
Okay.
charge of sun.
At the moment, I'm struggling with the light. I can't open my eyes. I'm squinting, squinting, squinting.
I've seen we've got a new arrival, the sunshine and the blue sky.
We have.
How
a little
do
bit
you
too
feel
late.
about it? Oh.
Did that sound bitter?
I thought that you would quite like it because such a huge part of your painting is going to be these gorgeous reflections. I imagine that the sunlight on the water is a quite tantalising prospect.
Yeah, I mean, the reflections have become more prominent, but they were always going to feature in my painting anyway.
Here on Landscape Artist of the Year, we're used to battling the elements. But on this series, we were joined by some artists who hadn't quite grasped how challenging that can be.
I made the mistake before I came here of saying, no, I've never worked en plein air, but surely it's the same as being in the studio. Well, I've spent most of the day chasing my paper, so when you get a bill for littering Eden, you'll know who did it.
I have never done liner cutting outdoors before. This is going to be an adventure for me today.
I have tubes of paint, I have my brushes, and water, which I nearly forgot, which is no good with watercolours if you don't have any water with you.
Most artists enjoy taking part in Landscape Artist of the Year, but painting under pressure can be a stressful business.
I'm going to sacrifice detail and try to get just a view of the entire space. I'll probably take another 3 days to complete this.
A little stressed now. There's not a lot of time left, and I hate the boat.
That bridge was so difficult. I'm still not 100% happy with it. Ah!
In this series of Landscape Artist of the Year, the artist faced views from the serene to the surreal, with something to challenge even the most experienced painter.
Just get these bloody hexagons done. That's the name of the game. Making them look like bubbles to start with, and then I'll go in with the old fine brush. I haven't tried painting bubble wrap, but I imagine it's quite similar.
You've completely avoided the hexagons. Is that a deliberate decision?
For the time being.
Oh, they might go in?
They might do. Probably not quite as solid lines.
James, I sense a man fighting against the clock.
Yeah, the bridge has kind of given me trouble, so maybe there is a few more touches left in that to do.
OK, crack on.
I'm finding the water difficult. I just want to show the flatness with the plane that it's going in. Yeah, water, which is what I normally paint, but not so lovely and flat.
I'm not happy. I want to add a larger sky. It's always a gamble, wiping off in a painting, but you never know where it's going. And that's part of it, it's the unknown.
I'm just trying to work out how to do the sides of the lake, the undergrowth, and then the water. I've no idea how I'm going to do the water.
But for some taking part, depicting the view in front of them was simply the starting point.
So, Raymond, you like to add a bit of narrative.
Personally, I don't like figures in landscapes very much.
Right.
But I think it helps with this because I've got a lot of grass.
One's reading, is it, or sitting down?
One's sitting down, looking away from this character. And I thought, well, this is something to do with the art gallery, an artist and a gallerist.
Ah.
Rejection.
Oh, right.
And placation. You know, it's a bit like landscape artist, I suppose. I mean, you know.
Which character are you in this?
Oh, this one, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
I usually paint adjusted landscapes, so I'll happily add in a historical narrative of some sort, whether it's something in the recent past or something a long, long time ago, what sort of things were around, you know, I like doing it.
Oliver, are you going for that historic feel?
I kind of am, yes. I'm thinking it's going to be almost H.G. Wells-esque, 19th century.
Tell me more about H.G. Wells at Compton Verney.
It's almost like a future he might imagine, but coming from this time originally. So everyone's gone and we've just left these kind of odd bits around. Obviously the house, I'm going to lob one of those sphinxes over here just separately on its own.
Okay, yeah.
I'm also thinking of it as something he might have time travelled to 300 years, 400 years in the future.
You're blowing my mind with all of these time connections.
I know.
I'm not going to be able to keep up.
I'm just trying to remember.
Where am I?
Hi, Richard. Can I come and have a
Hi,
chat?
Kevin. Yeah, not that. Sorry, that's part of my painting, believe it or not. In my submission, the thing that really drew me to it were the chairs, the empty chairs, and the story to me that brought the painting to life. Have they just been sitting there before they go fishing? Are they going to come back? You know, and from that point on, I've been a little bit obsessed with it.
OK, with chairs?
Yeah.
How's your relationship with chairs been today? I heard you sat on your palette.
I did sit on
Can
my
I
palette.
look? Can I see?
Luckily, it wasn't brown paint, but yeah, there you go.
Oh, OK, yeah, good.
Yeah. So that was kind of blind panic and a chair malfunction. It was weird, you know, but as soon as I put the chair in, I calmed down.
OK, good.
The wild cards, who paint alongside our pod artists at every heat, are always in with a chance of their artwork seeing them through to the semi-final.
You are our wild card winner today.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
Well done.
This year, the space was claimed by wildcard Helen MacDonald-Mathy for her diptych of the lake at Compton Verney.
I'm feeling quite emotional, actually, but I'm delighted.
Back in the pods, with time running out, the artists had to make some crucial creative decisions.
I've got the bridge in, I've got the distance in, so I'm now starting to work on the foreground. I feel pressed for time.
I'm in that weird place where maybe I should just stop, or I'll turn it into something else. I don't know. Can't see the wood for the trees, quite literally.
I normally would take a lot longer on a collage, but if I've completely covered the board, who's to say if it's finished or not? Older and wiser, you learn the tricks.
I could overwork it at this point, so I'll need to keep an eye on it.
In this series of Landscape Artist of the Year, 40 competitors put their artistic skills to the test, creating landscapes in just 4 hours, and many felt the pressure.
I need to just keep getting on with things. I haven't got a moment to lose, really.
I'm not feeling brilliant about it. If I overwork it, then that could lose it. But then again, also have to push it. So that's the question.
I will be painting up to the bitter end, I think. Just to milk every last minute of it.
I'm going to tread carefully, I think. The grass is going to be tricky. How much time have we got left?
Artist, you have 5 minutes left. 5 minutes.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God.
Artists, your time is up.
Please put down your equipment and step away from your easels.
As always, this year's artists rose to the challenge.
It's been an extraordinary day. I suppose it's the extraordinary place we find ourselves.
And I think it's so exciting to see them all so radically different.
With just one artist at every heat picked by the judges as their day's winner.
The artist who will be going through to the semi-final is... Alicia Enfield. Desmond Downs. Afshin Nasir.
Thomas McGregor.
Rebecca Noel Purvis.
Victories that delighted and flabbergasted in equal measure.
I'm a little bit in shock. Words escape me.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I was not expecting this. I came to do it just for the fun, really, you know, but this is fantastic.
I'm feeling overwhelmed. Was not expecting that at all.
It just sort of proves to me that I'm not that bad. I guess it's probably the first thing. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to sink in, to be honest. I'm still in a little bit of shock. But so happy, so happy. I don't think I can put it in words, really.
I feel shocked, very grateful, and just kind of excited.
You didn't know how it would end.
I didn't think that was going to happen at all. I made the decision a couple years ago to open up my own studio, and this makes me believe that I did the right thing.
Having triumphed at their heats, our selected artists then had to face a beer moth challenge at the semi-final.
It's a big red bridge, so there's no getting away from it.
I think it's going to be a bit tricky today because it is a flat morning starting off, and there is so much architecture. I think I have to pinpoint it down just a little bit because otherwise I'll just be drawing forever.
It's a train. See, it's all about scale. That huge bridge, it's got to feel big.
Just 3 artists were picked by the judges to compete at this year's fairy tale final. Alicia Enfield, Thomas McGregor, and Afshin Nazir.
Oh, wow. This is amazing.
This is awesome.
I'm liking it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit too much green, I think.
Too much green?
Yeah, there's a lot of green.
Oh, no, I like it.
I've sort of run into it.
So I've just started drawing out some of the initial ideas I had, but I think I was too excited by the topiary as a whole. It's too much. So I'm just editing it down now.
So I've got my drawing on the board, which makes me feel a little bit better. I'm really pleased with the composition. I think I'm on track to achieve what I want to achieve. Whether it's going to be good enough or not is another question.
So I'm blocking in the sky, the cloud formation that's just come in as well. So I just want to kind of rush and get some kind of sense of that. I think I've got a lot to do. Yeah, I'm just going to get on with it. Just going to sort of go crazy on it. Going to paint a couple of flowers. I don't know, there's so much to do.
I can still see things that I need to resolve, but I think if I go in to resolve them now, I'll probably ruin it.
Artists, for the very last time this series, your time is up.
Please put down your brushes and stand away from your work. Following a closely fought final, Our judges assess the work produced by our 3 artists alongside commissioned pieces painted in their own time.
Oh, my word.
Wow.
Oh, each true to type, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. They've kept to their style. They've been ambitious.
But there's some surprises here for me.
Shall we have a look at Thomas?
Yeah. It's really exciting to see an artist just crank it up to number 11. Where are we? A kind of utopian, futuristic society that it's reclaimed Mars? It's really powerful.
What I love is that sort of horizontality of it all, but the building still feels very freehand. And am I going mad, or does the whole thing sort of bow?
Yes, yes.
Which I think is also part of giving it that energy.
When I look at what Thomas did today, I think that he was right to go large to create breathing space. And I really like how he has shown the kind of absurdity and sort of personality of the topiary without taking it too far. Alicia's paintings, for me, often become sort of scientific or futuristic, and this actually shows us that she can kind of paint contemporary London but still imbue it with a very strong atmosphere. So misty, isn't it? It's almost like a sort of warning about climate change or something.
What I love about Alicia's work is I'm not sure if I'm in the past or I'm in the future.
I say Alicia's painting today is kind of interesting. She was the one artist we thought, oh, she's going to really respond to this garden. And then I wonder, in a sense, whether that also became a burden, that there was so much expectation, because what she's produced and the tones she's used take it back to a very traditional sort of painting.
Afshin paints things on her own terms. In fact, all our artists do. The sky is just glorious. And of course, she's got her water, which she loves. She's really brilliant at reflection.
It's got the romantic light, it's got the warmth, but in trying to render the buildings, she's become a bit tighter, and she's kind of done herself out of the luscious brush marks. But I thought today's painting of this garden was extraordinary, that we've given her all these sculptural shapes, and not one of them has been rendered completely, but it gives us a sense of the mood of the place.
Well, what a summer. We've been all over the country. We've seen dozens of artists, including all those wildcard artists. It's come down to 3. Made a decision?
Yes. It's been very difficult. It's been a very interesting day.
Yeah.
Afshin, Alicia, Thomas, what an artistic journey you've taken us on right through this series. Each one of you is inspirational, and to say that we admire your talent, well, it's an understatement.
To reach the final is a huge achievement in itself, but of course, only one of you can claim the top spot. And the judges have decided that the winner of Landscape Artist of the Year is Alicia Enfield.
Yeah, complete shock to hear my name called out. Over the moon, but yeah, speechless. I'm feeling quite emotional about it. Mostly just shock. Okay.